So thank you, Melanie. Thanks for the time today. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. I know we talked recently, similar topic a few months ago, so excited to be back.
Great, great. So let me start off. Could you please, I gave sort of the formal intro. Could you tell us a little bit about your role at ASICS?
Sure. I actually was originally brought in to re-platform what they were calling their CRM platforms at the time for direct to consumer. ASICS at the same time has been going through a digital transformation and looking in the space of what's also commonly referred to as MarTech as well. So I started building up that competency at ASICS, and now it is kind of a full staff team, multifunction, cross-functional, and really what we look at is delivering one-to-one personalization and messaging and content at the right time to the right consumer. And at the end of the day, it's always revolved around the runner's journey and how we help that along the way.
Nice, thanks. A wonderful overview there. So I mentioned experience-driven commerce. Could you talk a little bit about how important the concept of experience-driven commerce is to ASICS, and how will this type of strategy be used by ASICS to better engage with customers and to create lifelong fans out of your customers, as we at eSpirit talk about, for you and our other customers?
Yeah, so experience-driven commerce, I think ASICS went pretty heavy into investing in this area when they acquired Runkeeper, to be honest with you. It's about a fitness tracking app that's really partnering with the runner on their journey, not exactly always focused on that product or e-commerce conversion, but knowing that those two marry together on the customer journey. So I think the ASICS has really delved into the direct to consumer space, but realizes that the activewear space is actually one of the more advanced direct to consumer spaces, especially in retail. And you do have to be experience focused to compete at this point. It's kind of a table stakes. And so knowing that, ASICS also recently purchased Race Roster. So race registration, a little bit more B2B to C in terms of business. But again, it's really that full life cycle runner's journey. And we're trying to deliver a better experience. And for the runner, yes, it does result in them purchasing products that we make for them, but ultimately also delivering a good experience in terms of their lifelong journey as a runner or an active person. So yeah, the experience, I think the short answer is it feels like table stakes right now to be in this activewear space and retail space. But that's always been the core of the company. So how do you bring that through digital and scale it? So that's really how we're looking at it, and not just super conversion focused in terms of just how many shoes we moved in a day, but did people engage and did we help them in their journey?
Yeah, I love how you have this very solid set of solutions, within footwear, within the active clothing wear, and then you've expanded, you've integrated, into Runkeeper, into Race Roster, and really delved into the whole, running profession, amateurs, professionals, and deep with your customers. Now, I imagine it's been quite a journey for ASICS as you've moved along that process to connect with folks personally, then through these different solutions. And now you have the opportunity to connect curative fandom where, you're pushing it, and then the transformative fandom where, you're getting to experience firsthand digitally and, in person, the fans that you have talking about ASICS.
Yeah, and I would say the one thing, I've worked, also agency side where you actually worked on several clients and brands. The reason why I made the switch was to be devoted to a single brand, and that, what they did be, responsible for something end to end instead of just project delivery. The nice thing about the fandom is a lot of the employees that work at ASICS, Runkeeper, Race Roster, or on the products are genuine fans. and runners themselves. It's not necessarily a prerequisite. It's just, it does help in terms of the fans making tools for fans, or products for fans. So on top of that, I think in the past couple of years, so ASICS itself is about 70-year-olds or 70 years of history. But in the past several years, there's been a loyalty program to really, I think, also give back to, I think, that loyalist group or that fan group of ASICS, and even a cross Runkeeper race roster soon. So it's a loyalty program called One ASICS, and it's specifically meant to, I think, reward and respect the fandom, as well as grow that too. But like, I think loyalty programs also are growing in the space, but I think the understanding is, that's where personalization, I think, plays a big role, is what can the loyalty program deliver that they care about? And that's, I think, what we care about personalization with. So that's how we kind of nurture, but also we know the brand is longstanding and has the fans too. So we want to honor them as well. So that's, I guess, the current state of fandom. We're delving into loyalty and loyalty programs.
Yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful example, and the fact that it's just embedded into the culture of your organization, into the team, the people, the teams, and then dealing with the customers and really working with them. It's a great story. So as we had some discussions prior to this, and you were sharing with us, and shifting to the online commerce, right? The digital commerce, right? So you had Salesforce Commerce Cloud initially. Could you talk a little bit about what your journey was like of having Salesforce Commerce Cloud, and then you came to eSpirit, and you've been integrating eSpirit's digital experience platform, our content management system, and the personalization solution into Salesforce Commerce Cloud. To talk a little bit about the drivers for that shift, that transformation, and what the journey's been like.
I think it started maybe even several years before Salesforce Commerce Cloud, or formerly Demandware, came into the picture. But really growing the D2C program or business. I know a lot of, especially maybe long-standing retailers, move from that wholesale strategy to direct, because they do have so many loyalists. So I think growing that and nurturing that, not through a wholesaler, is, I think, where brands have gone. So with that, they platformed, I think, just to get them off the ground. And then we were looking for really cloud-based. And that's when Runkeeper got bought, actually. And that was really supposed to, I think, almost be the change agent of not only that platform, but the process by which it's implemented, which is more with in-house engineering talent. And then over several years, I think we're just completing, I think, our multi-year SFCC implementation globally for ASICS. And now, this whole year has been then dedicated to now ramping in the personalization space. So are really then digging our heels into personalization is this licensing and implementing of First Spirit plus ICE. So that was really the organization committing to that personalization strategy, and from a tech first. Granted, some places can do it maybe more strategically first, or there's lower hanging fruit. I think what's been interesting at ASICS is that it's really helpful to get behind the tech as the first kind of breaking ground, and then the process and the people follow. And it's worked for SFCC and ecom, and now that's how we're kind of using the tech as a change agent, but not ignoring, I think, all the other pieces that have to fall into line. So there are places where the tech has exceeded, I think, maybe the strategy we already have well baked out. But whatever I think forces the change is you should kind of ride that wave with that organization. So that's sort of a long-winded way to explain our journey, but we're very early in the First Spirit journey, but we're super excited at looking at even like interesting aspects like the CAS side of the house, so content as a solution too. So it's going to, I think, continue to force us to change, and we're excited for that.
Great, thank you. Yeah, nice job walking through each of those stages, those steps. So in getting to the last part, you hit the First Spirit Intelligent Content Engine. So the AI-driven personalization capability. what extent have you leveraged that already, and or do you intend to leverage personalization, to develop these experience-driven commerce for your customers?
Yeah, I mean, that's out of the gate, absolutely. It's actually, we've coupled it with the project completely. So we're not necessarily just rolling out First Spirit or just rolling out ICE. We're actually doing them directly in tandem. So that's how we're doing it at the page template level. We plan to integrate with additional systems outside of the specifically the e-commerce platform stack space too, which will be exciting to coordinate and see how ICE even handles not just within a platform or site or a session experience on a particular like client side experience, but see how it handles jumping between experiences. Like I said, we have Runkeeper and Race Roster. So we have an ecosystem that might not necessarily always be contained in ecom. And we don't plan to stay in just ecom. So that's the intent. In terms of ICE, like I was saying before, it's a change agent for us. So we're dipping our toes into what we would call more simple, more segmentation-based personalization. But once I think we start to ramp in terms of content development or creation, then we really want to go into like multivariate, truly personalized, where it's compiling a one-to-one experience for our customers. So taking it easy, but it's helping force that personalization strategy that doesn't necessarily solve itself with a tech, but it's helping push us there.
Mm-hmm. Right. Great. Thank you. So one question about CAS. And so Melanie had mentioned this before, within our First Spirit CMS, it's a hybrid headless CMS and has content as a service capabilities. How do you see, or have you leveraged content as a service? And how do you see leveraging it in the future? What does it open up for you?
I mean, in all honesty, we went more the headless with the cartridge and SFCC first, where SFCC is really the glass. I think CAS, we're really still looking at architecting that and seeing how we can leverage it. In all honesty, I think the next big wave of, which obviously you guys know, with a hybrid solution, headless across the board is going to become, I think, pretty standard and ubiquitous. So we're actually taking a look at that. We haven't used CAS yet in market yet, but that's one of the most exciting places that once we kind of take a breath from 2020, we're able to then, I think, find the right use cases for CAS. But anything that I think where we're thinking the best use cases are just, I think of it as a syndication channel. So anywhere where content is standardized and pulled from a single source of truth. Those are the types of use cases I'm looking at. So that could be even things as simple as terms and conditions that are just super standard and they need to be rock solid and exactly correct. So those are the types of things we're thinking of in terms of, I think of it as a syndication single point of truth in regards to CAS. So that a short answer, we haven't gotten there yet, but we're getting there. And that's probably one of the more exciting ones our engineers are the most, happy to get their hands on.
Right. Yeah. Thanks. Well said. I think CAS content service and, the hybrid headless CMS capability, it opens up the opportunity to have content, pulled in really to any channel, right? Any connection with your customer and in a synchronous way, getting to this multi-experience capability. And, as you said, it's using it today or not, regardless, it opens up future opportunities without having to change out the base architecture of your solution or what you have on site. So one more question here, since we're at the end. Personalization for ASICS. Who's responsible for creating and deploying a strategy of personalization, right? So I think it gets to the people side, of people process technology, that someone has to be in charge, and then how do you move that initiative across an organization?
It's a pretty challenging concept. We're still actually figuring that out. Like I said, we're trying to drive it maybe more from the tech route. So the strategy is maybe more about we're driving change into that way of thinking of A/B testing or multivariate testing as a standard to market. um, or multi-armed bandit testing, something like that. That should then start getting your organization thinking about that content production mode. But then in terms of personalization, it's really co-owned by, there's obviously marketing is deeply involved, as well as even CRM in terms of those, you know, those first party users we know, how do we, what do they care about, and what should we be personalizing them with? There's also channel strategy as well. So it's a pretty shared topic that we don't have necessarily a singular organization necessarily delivering. And I think then the second topic we've really tried to unpack is personalization is a huge topic. So you have to start talking about personalizing what, and then the stakeholders or the owners or the drivers of those might come out more readily. So for example, personalization with product is one thing, personalization with transactional content. So if you, I think personalization is so broad that it's, and an industry standard almost now, that you can, I think you probably need almost a committee of people to own it on behalf of consumers, but also on behalf of what the business cares about. So I
Mhm.
guess it's not an easy answer. We're still figuring it out, but I'm, I've seen it done in several ways, and I think it has to marry to your organization well. And I used to hate that answer from people. I just wanted the CTO or the CMO owned it, or whomever, but it really is that complex and layered.
Right, right. And like any strategic initiative, it has to be driven throughout the organization, has to be embedded in the culture in order for it to happen, and not just happen initially, but happen long term, right? And be sustainable, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.